We still got time. But
we're talking a lot about the difference between like the Sicilian and the American mafia, but if you just look at their histories, they're just like very different. Where throughout history, like the Sicilian mafia has always kind of been this drug smuggling organization.
Yeah,
when
Pizza Connection in the 80s.
Yes, when for a lot of the American mafia's history, it was trying to break into more legitimate companies. Like if you're looking at like the American mob,
it was heavy on extortion.
It was heavy on extortion, but also it was very heavy on gambling.
Yeah,
and they opened up a lot of legal casinos,
loan sharking,
and it was operated almost more like a legitimate business. The American mafia.
Yeah, I mean,
and union racketeering, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think in America there is a lot more of a push to because a push to get into legitimate business because
money laundering.
Yeah. But there was always like a lot of people claim that like Paul Castellano was one of these people who was the boss in the 80s. Who their dream was that the mafia would one day become 100% legitimate. And I think with the Sicilian
part
mafia,
of what got him whacked is because he thought of himself, he was trying to be so legitimate that he eventually kind of started, looking down on some of the soldiers' activities that were, still being very violent.
Yeah.
That kind of led to obviously Gotti taking over because, as the Gotti faction and the Neil Della Croce's, they were quote unquote street guys.
The Neil Della Croce and Gotti, they called that faction the Manhattan faction. Mm-hmm. And then Paul Castellano and like Roy DeMeo and Anthony Gaggi were kind of called the Brooklyn faction, and with the Gambinos, those two factions kind of go back a long way. I
always say though, man, if DeMeo could have survived those couple of early years in the '80s when they were really swarming around the his auto scam, if he could have somehow survived that, him and Gotti would have teamed up like a motherfucker.
I don't know if they would have because
I think they would have been
because they hated each other. They
hated Castellano.
They both hated Castellano,
and they were both serious street people.
They were both serious street people. They both hated Castellano.
I mean,
but they like. DeMeo wanted to take out Castellano because he wanted Anthony Gaggi as boss.
Right.
Gotti wanted to, and Gotti almost, when there was a hit, a contract out on Roy DeMeo, John Gotti almost took it. They explained that in Murder Machine. But
Murder Machine is supposedly there's a bunch of BS in there.
Who knows what is BS and what's not, and I'm just talking about like I'm trying to say like I'm not just making this up. Like there's a book where
I get it. Yeah.
But what they were saying was like John Gotti was considering taking it, but that John Gotti was also kind of afraid of Roy DeMeo because really just like everybody was afraid of Roy DeMeo. How could you not be?
The guy's a fucking literal monster.
They compared just like at that point in his life, John Gotti had killed 7 people, but Roy DeMeo had killed close to 200 people.
It's Massapequa, man.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's Massapequa. That's what we do. That's Long Island. That's that shit. We listen to Blink 182 at 3 a.m. and we kill people.
Yes, that is the slogan on the
Massapequa.
Yeah.
How crazy is it of there really used to be like a lot of mob guys when we moved in here. When we first went to Massapequa, when we were like young in like 1994, there was a lot of mob guys.
I mean, DeMeo was dead already.
DeMeo was dead, but John Gotti Jr. lived.
Gambino was dead already.
Yes, but John Gotti Jr. lived 2 blocks away from us.
Correct.
When we grew up. And I remember there was like a few like lower level people. Like I'm not going to say anybody's name, but I remember when I was like very little on the school bus and there were like all the kids who were saying like my dad's in the mob, and I was always thought that they were just like fucking around.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
And looking back, I was like, oh shit, his dad was in the mob.
I know who you're talking about.
It was more than one person. It was like a few people.
I know, but the one that was really close to us.
Yes.
Yeah.